So the e-tron SUV is fully charged. It charges overnight. I can charge at a maximum of 10 kilowatt speed here at home. We're gonna unplug it. Let's now have a look at the actual range. 216 kilometers. I'll show you that the car is actually fully charged. As you can see, 100%, 99. And the range I've got, it's 216 kilometers. Hi, this is Wiz. Welcome to my channel. This is the Audi e-tron SUV 50 Quattro. As you can see, there are no changes whatsoever. The exception being the 50 logo here instead of 55. Other than that, it is the exact same car. Specifications differs. It has a smaller 71 kilowatt hour batteries. But other than that, it is the exact same car. I have to say this one is weirdly configured because it has some fancy options like the soft close. But it has the manual seat adjustment. No full leather, but a slide interior. No Bang & Olufsen sound system. Oh my gosh. And if we step inside, we are greeted by the new interior design layout with the very fingerprint magnet central screen, the secondary screen, and the virtual cockpit. It will be interesting for me to compare the 55 e-tron SUV with this one, the 50. I've already test drove the 55. I've done a couple of videos about it. I'll put the link somewhere here. And knowing that the 55 has already a very small range, this one has an even smaller range. So how this goes on the normal usage. So I'm gonna drive the car today like a normal day in my life. Not so normal day in my life because I'm supposed to go to work and I'm not currently working. I'm staying home, but I'm gonna go from home to town, and then I'm gonna go from town to Freeway, a little bit of Freeway, and come back with some country roads, come back home and see how the range evolve and see also how you should drive this kind of electric car. There you go. We're gonna drive now the e-tron 50 SUV like a normal day in my life. I've put a GoPro here so you can see in real time the energy consumption, the range and the speed. I'm sorry for the reflection. I hope it gets better while I start to drive. So let's start this. The e-tron 50 SUV has a 71 kilowatt hour battery as opposed to the 95 one in the 55. 0 to 100 is in 7 seconds, 6.5 with the 55. And the range, the WLTP range, is 300 kilometers on this one and 417 on the 55. I'm in comfort mode right now. We're gonna go on dynamic a little bit later. I still enjoy very much driving an electric vehicle. It is really comfortable. It is a silent drive. And despite being less powerful than the 55, the e-tron 50 has a quite good acceleration. As you can see, it is quite good if you consider the more than 2.5 tons weight of this vehicle. Obviously, I'm gonna respect the speed limitation as much as I can. So don't expect any crazy ride on this video. If you find driving a car the way it should be driven in a normal open road boring, then you shouldn't watch this video. If you're interested in this e-tron 50 SUV and you want to see how it is to drive it in real life, then this video may be the right one for you, hopefully. Unfortunately, it is supposed to rain shortly. We're gonna enter a short portion of freeway. So we're gonna be able to check the acceleration. Go. This portion is limited to 80 kilometers an hour. It is normally 100, but 80 now. Gonna reduce the speed. And the road to go from where I live to the town is around 8 to 9 kilometers, but is almost all downhill, slightly downhill. Which means that if you take a look at the range, we should be getting to town with more range than when we started this trip. As you may know, with the e-tron SUV, you don't have the automatic regenerative braking as you may have in the Tesla, but you've got here the two paddle shifter on the steering wheel that are not meant for changing gears. This car doesn't have gears, but they are meant to be used as a regen braking, manual regen braking. So with the -1 here, if you press it once, the car starts to lower, and if you press it twice, then the car lower even further and start recharging. Which means that if you're driving in this kind of downhill roads, you can really play with the paddle shifter. But beside that, the car can also be configured to automatically apply some regenerative brake. You can configure that in the options of the car on the MMI. So now I'm going a little bit too fast, so I'm pressing twice the regen braking on the paddle shifter, and as you can see on the charge section, you can see there is a little cursor that shows you when you are charging the battery. And as you can see, range is going up. Pressing the minus paddle shifter, the car applies some brake and it charges the battery. Now I'm at the right speed. I press the +1, so the car starts gaining again some speed and is currently not charging the battery. Now I press it again because I want to reduce obviously my speed. I press it twice and have a look at the range. I'm at 230 as opposed to 217 when I started. The range availability is supposed to adjust depending on the way you drive the car. I didn't touch the brake, almost didn't touch the brake. I did everything with the paddle shifter here. Like now, I'm gonna brake with the paddle shifter. and speed limit will be now 60 kilometers an hour. I press twice on the paddle shifter, so I'm reducing my speed, as you can see, and I'm recharging the battery. And then as soon as I hit the throttle, I go on normal usage using the battery power. Look at this turn, I was able to do it without touching the brake, only with the paddle shifter. Some may find this annoying because you constantly have to play with this, but you can also drive the car normally by just using the throttle and the brake. Every time you're gonna use the brake, you're gonna charge the battery anyway. As I was saying earlier, you can also adjust in the settings to have the auto braking, meaning that the car will use the radar, will use the GPS location, and will apply by itself some braking when it is needed. It is quite disturbing at the beginning, especially if you don't know that you have suddenly your car braking for you. But once you get to how the system works, it is very helpful. As you know, with electric cars, they consume less energy in town than on freeway, as opposed to combustion engine cars, where it's the opposite. I love the sound of electric cars. I used to call this the sound of the future. Some calls it the sound of a vacuum, or a sound of a train, of an electric train. I quite like this sound. You can have a look at the long-term consumption. (28.3 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers since the beginning. That's the actual consumption. I'm quite happy with how this car accelerates. It is really not that bad. When I read the specs of this car, and I read 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 7 seconds, I was like, bleh. But keep in mind, this is an SUV. This is not by any means a sport car. It is even not a sporty SUV. If you want better acceleration, you will have to wait for the S version. I'm really happy about the S version coming out soon. That is a car, especially in the Sportback variant, that I would consider even replacing my RS5 with. What do you think? Should I do that? For whatever reason, you may know I had a Tesla. If you want to know more about it, scroll down to my videos and you'll find quite a lot of videos about my Tesla Model S 100D. And I loved the experience. What I didn't like at all was the very bad perceived quality, especially on the cabin, and some misaligned panel. But other than that, I loved the experience. I like driving an electric car. I have nothing against it. I still love petrol cars, of course. I still love exhaust sound and the smell of the gasoline. But I'm really not against electric vehicle. I think in the ideal world we would have a hybrid, more hybrid vehicle. I would like to constantly have the choice whether I want to use the petrol engine or whether I want to drive in electric only. Like for example, in this specific case, driving in town, I don't need to have the powerful petrol engine. The electric one would do. But unfortunately, on current hybrid models, the electric range is very poor. is about 40 kilometers. I've driven the Panamera Turbo SE Hybrid, go check my video about it, and that car was simply incredible, but the electric only range was very disappointing. So we're crossing the town and we are gonna join the freeway. It's gonna be a tunnel first. And as you can see, the range didn't move at all since I arrived to town. It is still 238 kilometers. As a reminder, we started with 215 or 217 kilometers. Joining the freeway right now. I'm still on comfort mode. We're gonna go later on dynamic. This car has quite a few modes: all-road, efficiency, comfort, auto and dynamic. So as you can see, acceleration is really good. Actually, this is the thing that impresses me the most about this 50 version of the e-tron. Acceleration is really not bad at all. Of course, with electric power, the acceleration comes instantly, and that helps a lot compensating the lack of power of this, the relative lack of power of this version. I put the ambient lighting on green because I think it goes very well with an EV car and also with the greenish layout on the virtual cockpit. As you can see, range is going slightly down now that we are on a freeway, 100 kilometers an hour. It is very comfortable, it is very silent. It's more silent than my Tesla Model S used to be. And even here on the freeway, you can play with the paddle shifter. If you are going too fast, you don't need to brake with your foot, you just can press the paddle shifter and it instantly reduces the speed and also start charging the battery. What can I say about the range? The official range is 300 kilometers an hour, so this is obviously really small. So this car is not for everyone. If you are traveling a lot, if you are a sales guy like me, for example, traveling all around the country, then this car is clearly not the right car for you. If you are just looking for an EV solution, a very upscale, classy EV solution, but you are only driving in town or commuting to work, then this is more than enough. If you are able to charge your car at home like I can do, then 300 kilometers or 230, 240 is plenty enough. But again, if you are doing a lot of trips, or if you need to commute far away from home for your job, then you should at least consider the 55 version or a Tesla. Tesla has way more range than the e-tron actually has. You can see that range is still not really going down. It's quite stable. I keep saying on all my videos that I'm not an SUV guy, but each time I'm driving an SUV, I really like the experience. In an ideal world, I would have a car like this as my daily, and I would have my Porsche 911 in my garage. That would be cool. But being the e-tron SUV already an expensive car, then this will remain a dream for me. So cruising at 120 kilometers an hour, it is an extremely comfortable drive, and if I need more power, then it comes instantly. Honestly, if you're afraid of buying this car because of the power, don't be. It is plenty enough. And the 55 is even better than that. We're gonna exit the freeway now and go on some country road. Countryside road. So now I'm braking only with the paddle shifter. I'm not touching the brake at all. And as you can see, car is slowing down. Maybe not enough. If it's not enough, you can always brake by yourself, of course. Now again, approaching the roundabout, I'm gonna brake only with the paddle shifter, or maybe not. Yeah, depend on the situation, of course. You will have to use your brake, your foot. That's the reason why I like to shoot my videos on Sunday. There's way less traffic than during the week. Today is Monday afternoon. So I'm going a little bit above the speed limitation. I don't need to use my foot. I use the paddle shifter and I go down to the 60 kilometers an hour. And when I'm done, I press the plus. Look at the range. 223 actually. And we're gonna check at the end how many kilometers I did since I started this video. So you can have a really realistic information about how much this car, how much energy this car uses. Again, the drive is very relaxing, very comfortable. But still, when you need the power, whoo, wow, impressive, impressive. Being the 50. Braking again with the paddle shifter. We're going to briefly rejoin the freeway and then take the first exit. I didn't touch the brake here. So full acceleration now. Very good, very, very good. Power is not an issue at all on the e-tron 50 SUV or e-tron SUV 50, whatever you want to call it. Once you get used to play with the paddle shifter, then it's really like a game. It is like, let's see if I can manage this situation without touching the brakes with my foot, only with the paddle shifter. Obviously, it will really depends on the situation. Like now, I'm braking with my foot because it is required. Despite this specific model having a very weird configuration with Alcantara seats, no full leather, no electrical adjustable seats, no Bang & Olufsen, it is very well equipped otherwise with head-up display, CarPlay and some other fancy stuff. All this safety equipment is here. Look at the Urus. Can you see the yellow Urus there? Wow. Wow. What a car. I believe the 50 variants cost around 10k less than the 55. So the question is, would you save 10k and lose 117 kilometers of range? Again, it depends. It depends how you intend to use this car. For driving just in town or a very small commute to work, it is quite okay. But let's say that now I'm driving in town and for whatever reason I need to go to Geneva, which is around 120 kilometers from here. I'm not able to go and come back. I will have to charge the car at some point. And another weak point of having this kind of car, especially the e-tron, is that you don't have a very, very good supercharging network. You do have Ionity, but here in Switzerland, for example, you just have 4 or 5 locations. So if I need to go now to Geneva and I need to fast charging my car, I have nothing. I can maybe charge maximum at 50 kilowatt hours, which would still require around probably 1 hour to charge the car. And I'm not even talking if the battery is completely low. So I would say that is the limitation of this car, is that if I have something unplanned now and for whatever reason I need to go to Zurich or Geneva, I cannot go and come back. I will need to stop and lose at least 1 hour to charge the car. If you have a Tesla, you don't really have this kind of issues because it has way more range and you do have more Tesla superchargers along the way. So let's now go on more twisty roads and move on dynamic. Oh, the street is closed actually, further away. So let's move on dynamic. And I have to say that on this car, contrary to my RS5, when you move on dynamic, you really feel the difference. The steering wheel becomes way stiffer the suspensions, the air suspensions goes down, and then the car is more nimble. As nimble as an SUV of this kind can be. As you can see, driving on the speed limitation is really not a problem. Of course, you feel the weight, but still, as you can see, you shouldn't be ashamed at all to have this car and drive it a little bit more dynamic. Of course, range will go down dramatically. Everything is moving around the cabin. Again, this is not the way this car is intended to be driven. That's a 30 kilometers an hour portion. And then we will have a last stretch with the road at 80 kilometers an hour. And then we can call it a day. I don't want this video to be 1 hour long. But still, I thought it would be interesting to see a real usage of this car, especially talking about the range. Keep in mind, again, we started with 217 kilometers range, and as you can see, we didn't really go that much down. I would say if you don't do a lot of freeway, it is still manageable on a daily basis, and then you would charge your car at home, provided you do have the infrastructure to do that. So now it's 80. I'm gonna slow a little bit down. There's no one behind me. Maybe let's do a start stop. Actually, a 0 to 80. Go! As you can see, it is decent. That's the... Should I keep only one word about this car, it will be decent. Decent range, decent sensations, decent options, decent car. I personally wouldn't buy the 50. I would put 10k more, stretch a little bit and buy the 55, because the 50, the range is really not great. You never know what happens in life. I mean, you may have someone calling you asking to go and pick him at the airport. You can have an urgency where you need to drive for a few hundred kilometers. Of course, this is not happening every day, but if it happens, you may have to tell the person, I'm sorry, I cannot do that. I don't have enough range on my car. And then the person would say, then refuel. And then you would say, I'm sorry, no, it's an electric car. So you're not gonna do electric cars justice by acting this way, because obviously you will give a very bad image of electric vehicles. So if I do the math correctly, after traveling 41 kilometers, we should be at around 175 kilometers of range, and we do have 189, so we recharged a little bit the battery. And this is the short-term memory. 41.3 kilometers, and we spent 24.8 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, and this trip was just a little bit over 1 hour. Other than that, you can here see the battery level, so you can adjust here to use 100% like I did, or using just 50% of the battery, or 80%. Usually, if you don't drive a lot, you would charge the battery at 80% only. This will help saving a little bit the battery. But given the very small range we have, I would charge this battery always at 100%, whether it's good or not for the battery. And then if you go to efficiency assist, this is what I was saying earlier. You can choose to have the automatic recuperation, meaning that the car will apply brake whenever it thinks it's necessary, or you can say, no, I want to do that by myself. I prefer to have it on automatic. A little update, I drove 8 to 9 kilometers more. Again, it was downhill to go back to town, and as you can see, the range went further up. It is now 202 kilometers. One last update, I went to visit my mom in town, I went to buy some food in town and come back home. As you can see, I did in total, since I started this video, 66.9 kilometers, almost 2 hours, and the consumption was 26.4 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, and I still have 161 kilometers of range. Let's see how much battery I have left. I have 72% left. It means that should I do the same kind of traveling with my car tomorrow, I wouldn't need to charge my car overnight, but should I go for whatever reason to Geneva or Zurich, I wouldn't be able to go and come back. In my situation, this is not an issue because I do have my charging over there at my house. So I will charge the car overnight, and from 9 p.m. till 7 a.m. I pay half a price. I pay like 10 cents or 12 cents per kilowatt. So it wouldn't cost that much for me to charge the car every night. So there you go. What do you think about this e-tron SUV 50 Quattro? Would you buy this car? Would you buy the e-tron SUV in general? I hope you enjoyed this real life usage of this car. And I also want to say thanks to Amag Crissier here in Lausanne for allowing me to drive this car for a few days. Follow me for more content and don't forget to activate the notification bell. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.